I wanna see the snowman get so mad that I go berserk. When I black out, my eyes white, then I put in work. I'm in my element, but I'm still developing. Wait a couple years and see what I do when I settle in. Hoes, I thought he slow slide, so I had the fire lord. Took away his bending, now he's someone I ignore. Frozen in an iceberg, got a cold flow for these savage bars. Greatest in the lineage, bow down to the avatar.
Hope can bring despair, but I never lose it.
Alright, so here's the deal. I want to talk about the rise and fall of 343 Industries. I want to talk about my opinions and my experiences with 343 Industries and what I think they could do to up their games just a little bit better. Now, let's get one thing clear here. I've played every Halo game. The only ones I haven't played yet were the Wars games and Halo Spartan Assault, which was the mobile game that got ported to Xbox One. I didn't really care that much about those ones, and they're not really canon to my understanding. But I want to talk about Halo. I want to talk about the rise and fall of 343 Industries, and I want to talk about why this needs to happen. Like, why they need to start, like, you know, start getting better, basically. And this is the Mario. This is the Mickey Mouse that they're doing. And even though it's not as colorful as Mickey Mouse or whatever, the Halo series is still very important to a lot of people. It's important to so many people that I feel like whatever I say can, of course, kind of affect the fans in some way, shape, or form. But enough of that. Let's get dangerous! So our story starts off in the year 2010. 10 years ago. Yeah, can you believe it? 10 years ago, Bungie stepped down from Microsoft because they wanted to focus on other projects. A couple of those projects being the Destiny series with both 1 and 2. And I think those are the only games that they've actually worked on after leaving it. And please someone say something in the comments if I skipped over something. But this was still a big thing for the gaming industry at the time. Why would you leave such a successful franchise like the Halo franchise when you just keep pumping out after game after game after game that just was just so good? But the hardcore community and the hardcore creators actually got together and they actually made 343 Industries, a collaborative effort to keep producing Halo games. And this was a huge deal because this was just it was one of the first times I've ever heard of like a company stepping down and then like basically the community helped form 343 Industries, like formed the company. Even like this was the first time I've ever heard about anything like this, and I wanted to keep saying like, okay, how does the Halo series continue on even without the main head honchos in on all the action? And that's where we got the remake of this series, the remake of the very first ever Halo game, Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary. This game, from its music to its visuals, was just everything that I loved about the very first ever Halo, with like the nostalgia goggles on, basically. And I didn't play that much of the original Halo, whether it first came out. I wasn't really alive then. But I do remember playing a little bits and pieces of it whether I was like alive, obviously. I do remember playing all of the original 3 Halo games. I've actually reviewed the 3 Halo games before. You guys can go check those out in the Choose Versus playlist. Not the Choose Versus 2020 playlist, I'm just going to say that right now. But back on topic, basically, this was a masterpiece. I loved everything about this game, except for one tiny thing. And then when I say tiny thing, I kind of mean a big thing, because whenever I personally think of Halo, I think of a campaign followed by great multiplayer. And this does have great multiplayer, don't get me wrong. It's Halo Reach's multiplayer. It's emulated Halo Reach, but it doesn't have as many maps, and for some reason they didn't even decide to remake Halo 1's multiplayer, like at all. I tried to look into this and I can't really find anything else on it without some random fan just basically saying the same thing I'm saying, except a lot more loudly. So if you guys know any reasons, again, throw them down in the comments. I would love to read them. But one of the main reasons why Halo Combat Evolved was so great was because it was just something that hasn't really been done yet in the Halo series. Of course, following this was Fable Anniversary and stuff like that, and it really showed that people still care about the original Xbox lineup of games, like the very first one. And that was a system that was competing next to the PS2 and the GameCube, and so it was just like, whoo! But continuing onwards, we get to 2012, and this is where everything got a little bit wacky, because Halo 4 showed up. And this divided the fans into the people that loved the 343 games and the people that wanted to stick with Bungie. I am down the middle on all of them. I had my fun and actually got more people into Halo through 4. So in that case, I kind of like Halo 4 for that aspects, because it took basically a lot of the Call of Duty players into Halo. That's what I got into, at least, because they had in the loadout function for multiplayer, and it felt a lot more like a Call of Duty game more than a Halo game. But that wasn't really a bad thing, because it did feel like it had that Halo feeling to everything. Whenever I say it was Call of Duty, it was mostly going through the loadouts and the way you level up your character and all of that other good jazz. Nowadays, the leveling up system doesn't really count towards anything big in multiplayer, unless if you honestly do care about those customization options for Reach, but that's honestly about it. But well, it's the bad time here. Let's go back to Halo 4 real quick. So Halo 4, with its story, did something that I didn't even think was really possible. And throughout the entire story, it's about Chief and Cortana just going back into the swing of things after 4 years since Halo 3. It's just like they open their eyes and they're in the full Wonder world, and they have another war on their hands. Not only is the Covenant back as somewhat of an evil side, but these people called the Prometheans are, and then there is the UNSC Infinity, which is expanded upon the UNSC originally, and obviously they clash heads. Chief clashes heads with basically all of them. Cortana is actually dying, essentially. She is dying, and Chief is trying to find Dr. Halsey to save her, because that's her best friend. That's literally the only best friend that Chief had forever. But unfortunately, at the end, she does in fact sacrifice her life for John, and she dies. And that's kind of how she wrote it. And this was kind of an interesting thing for me going back and like replaying it, considering that the Batman Arkham games somewhat did this. In the end of Batman Arkham City, Joker ends up out of the picture. So how they're going to do the same thing with Halo, considering that Halo, Cortana was basically like it's Luigi, it was its player too. You can't just kill off someone as important as her. It definitely made me cry, like it made my sorry little face cry, but it was still something that not a lot of people really knew what to expect at the end. In that game's music, I feel like it was the best original composition and music that the Halo series actually ever had. And that is saying a lot, considering that the later games kind of doesn't have that. But again, one step at a time here. Going to 2014, we actually got a remake of Halo 2, but not just Halo 2. We actually got a collection of games. Halo 1, 2, 3, and 4. All of these games were going to be in one collection known as the Master Chief Collection. And I got excited about this, because they were going to bring back every multiplayer option ever available. They're going to have all the campaigns. They're going to have everything back into Halo. And this was something that hasn't really been done before. At the time, we didn't have a single Halo game for the Xbox One. It was up in the air what game could potentially come out, and backwards compatibility hasn't yet taken off at that point in time. And so it was crazy. No one knew what to think about it. And so then 2014 hit, and around this time, 2014, hit with Halo Master Chief Collection. And a lot of people hated this at the very start of it. And this is something that I can never understand why. Because the Master Chief Collection, in my opinion, was pretty good. The only thing that was really lacking was its system link compatibility, but even local multiplayer was still a fun time. I loved the local multiplayer aspect of it, and the campaigns played perfectly, and Halo 2 looked amazing. I loved the way that everything looked in 2 Anniversary. It was like watching a movie. And even though Halo has its fair share of movies and even an anime, this type of medium, this type of like storytelling, the video games, this took it to a whole other level, and I was super excited to see what Halo 5 was thinking. If only I knew the pain and suffering I would go through it. 2015 hit, and oh my gosh, I was excited. I was hyped to see what Halo 5 had in store. Because around this time, the only thing we only really got of Halo 5 was kind of a cutscene of this giant looking thing, Forerunner type artifact looking thing, come out of the sand, and it looked like it was basically Master Chief was going to join forces with Ezio from the Assassin's Creed universe, because I honestly didn't know what to make of this trailer, and honestly it looks very cool, and I kind of wish they kind of went with this type of like style throughout the rest of the Halo 5, but no. They tried to put like the solving a mystery. We had to find the truth. Like this was the whole tagline of Halo 5 up until launch. We had to find the truth. Like whatever, and we see like 2 trailers of this one dude pointing a gun at John, and John pointing a gun at this one dude. It was just crazy to think about like how this game is going to play out. But then we get closer and closer and closer to launch, and I'm still getting hyped about it. They showed off this new multiplayer mode called Warzone, and I wasn't really interested in it. I mean, I was kind of interested, but not really interested. I just wanted to kind of see what the local multiplayer was still there. I didn't hear anything about local multiplayer forever. I didn't hear anything about local multiplayer from the developers. I didn't hear anything about local multiplayer through anything. And then we get to launch day. And we put in the game into the Xbox. We wait 3 days because the dang game needed like so much installation. But as soon as I started up the game and we started playing it, it looked beautiful. It looked something that I was going to enjoy. It was something that I was actually about to, like basically it was going to top Halo 3 at the time. Because Halo 3 at the time, and still is, my favorite Halo game of all time. This was going to be the Halo 3 killer. If only it was the Halo 3 killer. This game, from its story, from its characters, to its plot, to like, I guess that's the same thing as the story, but like from like the little like ways that they told stuff, the way that they elaborated on stuff, all of it, hot garbage. I felt broken. I did not know what to think. This game was just not hitting any moments for me. It was just hitting any sort of moments for me from the story. We didn't get any sort of real character that I honestly liked, other than Buck. Yeah, I didn't even like Sergeant Locke. And since I've said I didn't really like Halo 5, a person actually came up to me and asked, hey, you don't like Halo 5 probably because the main character is black, isn't it? No, that's not the reason why I don't like Sergeant Locke. I feel like his character was well undercooked, and he felt a lot more of just like a yes man and to the whole thing, and not really challenging anything about the Halo like story, anything about Master Chief or the Blue Team. It was just Fireteam Osiris, and they were the main game, like the main guys throughout the game. You mainly play as them in the teams, and the team mechanic was ripped straight out of Star Wars Republic Commando. I'm just saying that right now. Like the way that you die, then you have your teammates come and heal you, which is a good addition, like a good addition to your characters. But it's just, I don't know. I just didn't like this game. This game really did turn me away from the Halo series for a little bit. And what put the salt on the wound was that I could not experience it locally. I couldn't experience it system link like, I guess there was a way to system link it, but there wasn't like a way that I could do it at the time. We only had one Xbox One, and I didn't know next to no one else that had the game. And even so, that means we'll have to buy like X amount of games with the console for it. I felt like they could have fixed this a lot more. This could have done so much more. Even kind of like the game's frame rate or whatever for local multiplayer for the campaign would have been fine. Or they could have done what they did with Halo 4's campaign, because that game was just as much cinematic as this game is, just a little bit more so. And just for like the main like first person parts, just whoever makes it to the end first will be the one to control that character in the moment. I just didn't understand anything about Halo 5 Guardians. Warzone was a nice distraction, but nothing that really stayed its welcome. And the Slayer modes, I could never actually got anyone to play with, like, at all. And they do have a Forge mode option, but what's the point of Forge when you have next to no one to play with? This was something that really did broke me, ladies and gentlemen. And don't take me as one of those screaming fans like I brought up before that just whined about 343 Industries. I was honestly broken about this, though, because it really showed that they honestly didn't care about the series the same way that Bungie did. Bungie, they felt like they crafted a entire system, an entire world with nice AI and just a great universe. They've written books, they have the animes, they had a couple, I think they had one movie. I think the movie was still kind of technically under 343, but I don't know. Like, they have books and they had the anime, and it really was like they honestly did care about the worlds. Nowadays, I honestly still don't understand what they think about Halo, and I think they're taking the backlash of 5 too hard, and they're trying to make something. They're trying to make something that people will enjoy. I've seen, it was the first time I saw like the first like 10-15 minutes of gameplay, I was hooked. I loved the way it looked. I remember that day, and it was just it was one of the best days of this year, because I saw promise of a video game that I think they've really took to heart. And even after them remaking the Master Chief Collection with like putting it to Game Pass as like the main games you can play on Game Pass, and just with the amount of support that we got Reach, and we got ODST now available in the Master Chief Collection, so it is the all-in-one Halo game, and it's definitely the way I play a lot of Halo games nowadays. But still, people are very much still mad at 343 Industries, and they do not know how to take Halo 5 Guardians. A lot of people, when they saw that first 15 minutes of gameplay or whatever, they thought it looked rushed. They thought it could have done a lot better. It felt like they just threw it together last minute. And I didn't really see that. I saw it as something that they've honestly put a crap ton of time into. And considering what situation we are in the world right now, they get a lot of crap for no reason. Because, you know, it's not like they could potentially go to the actual offices. And even if they could just like one by one, just trying to get as much stuff as they can, just download it or try to connect to a certain server so they can work from home or whatever, that's still a lot of work that they have to do. And even if it was considered rushed or whatever, it looked beautiful. It looked like a return to form. I don't know who this guy is that woke up the Master Chief in the beginning of the like trailer or whatever, the one that they crash landed on. I didn't understand who he was and how he's going to connect to the story, but if he's going to be like the next sidekick or like a actual like comedy relief character that's actually going to be in the game, and even if this is like a reboot of the series, I am down for it. The things that I wanted Microsoft to focus on, and which I've heard that they actually are focusing on, is multiplayer, local multiplayer, and system link multiplayer and all that other stuff, and a story that can keep me active throughout the entire thing. And there's even rumors flowing around that the multiplayer might be free and they throw it on Game Pass this like Christmas, and they might even release the full thing on Game Pass, and you can even play off any sort of Xbox. But obviously, it will play a lot better than on Xbox Series X. So, but my wishes and my entire heart goes out to the people that plays that makes these games. These are not just one-and-night deals. I feel like a lot of the fans that are complaining don't actually understand the time it takes to understand it takes time to make a game. You can't just spend one day and make a game and boom, there it is. I mean, that's how simple indie games are developed. But for a AAA title, they are having to work day and night. You wanna know why Zelda Wii U took forever for it to come out? Because they tried craftily making a game that people are going to enjoy. And so, yeah, it definitely does take a long time for these games to come out. And we have, of course, been waiting for a little bit to even hear back from Halo Infinite's development and all that. But honestly, if it's going to be the game that is going to revitalize the Halo series, I believe that it's going to be Halo Infinite. And if it ends up being a complete disaster financially and just all that, then Halo might as well be dead. But, there's still people that play the other games. There's still people that have Master Chief Collection to fall back onto with its variety of games from Reach, Combat Evolved, 2, 3, ODST, and 4 that can satisfy your gaming needs for the first-person shooter genre. And so, with that being said, my heart goes out to everyone at 343 Industries, and I hope that you can take the constructive criticism, not the harsh criticism, but the constructive criticism that people actually have with the Halo series, and make something that people are going to remember forever. Whew, gosh. I wanted to get this video out so long ago, but obviously with the way that this kind of life is, I mean, it's kind of calmed down a little bit, so that's a good sign. So I actually have a couple of videos that I'm actually going to be making right now. So thank you guys so very much for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic night, and keep gaming.